So a question just popped up in my Inner Circle program from one of the members, and she said, I'm running short on hot leads for my program. She has a $2,000 hybrid course / coaching program that helps people with TikTok growth and TikTok audience monetization and things like that. And so she was looking for some guidance in terms of, how do I get more hot leads effectively? And she said, maybe a price increase would be good to potentially generate some demand. And I wrote a relatively long response to her that I wanted to reiterate to you all. And this is going to be beneficial for you if you sell courses, coaching, consulting, high ticket affiliate products through a personal brand and you've got an audience anywhere, right? And when I say anywhere, I mean TikTok, Instagram, Facebook profile, Facebook groups, email list, doesn't matter. An audience of people who you are communicating with frequently, and your goal is to ultimately get them to buy your main thing. Okay, I think most people will get a light bulb go off here that will really help them with audience monetization in particular. Okay, and just for context, we've been able to sell millions and millions and millions of dollars of information products. I've won a bunch of awards doing it through my personal brand, through an audience that I built on email, Facebook, YouTube, those kinds of places. So this is from real world experience, not theory. Before we jump into it, if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe. Be sure to give this video a like if you get any value from it, which I think you're going to. If you want to check out what we've got going on, there's going to be a link in the description. It's going to take you over to a video where I break down an information-based offer that generated $45,000 in 11 days. And we did that with just a few simple Facebook posts. Okay, so if you're interested in content like this about audience monetization, I'd recommend you check out that video because you're going to see full breakdown of an offer, as I said, that pulled in 45K in 11 days with just a few simple Facebook posts. No sales calls, some very quick DM conversations. Really powerful example that I think most people will get a lot out of. Okay, so back to this one. So she said, I'm running out of hot leads. What is important to understand is not having hot leads. That doesn't mean that there's a massive problem. It could mean that there's a slight issue with how you're communicating with your audience, but really it's just a reflection of where your audience is at, right? And so the best way that I can explain this is if you have an audience of people, right? Let's say you've got 1,000 people in a Facebook group. The same applies to an email list, same applies to your Facebook profile, and you've got one core product that you're trying to sell them. All right. If you've got that 1,000 people, I want you to imagine that you've got a spectrum from 1 to 10, right? 1 being they're really new to your world. They're really new to your audience. They might kind of maybe know who you are, but they don't really know what you do. They don't really know how you can help them. They don't really know about your results, your client results. They haven't spent a lot of time consuming your stuff, but they are in your world in some way, and they do have some kind of idea who they are. That'd be a person around like the 1 level, okay? Then at the complete other end of the spectrum, you've got people who are 10s, okay? And these are the people who are like about to message you and go, yo, send me a payment link. I'm ready to go. Like they're the people that are ready to pay. They've been through your process, they've consumed your content, you've spoken to them, all this kind of stuff, and they're ready to rock and roll. Okay, they're your bookends, right? And then once they pay, they kind of fall off that spectrum because they've converted. Then they fall into a whole nother one, and you look to ascend them into something else eventually, right? But let's just focus on that one. So you've got people kind of at one end who don't really know much about you, and you've got people who not only know a lot about you, they've probably consumed a lot of your stuff, and they've made the decision that this is the person that can help me out. Okay, so our 1,000 people are going to all sit somewhere on that spectrum, right? Some of them are going to be 1s, some of them are going to be 3s, some of them are going to be 5s, 7s, 8s, 9s, and 10s. Okay, so when this client of mine says she doesn't have a lot of hot leads, that just means she's not directly in contact with those 9s and 10s in her audience. Okay, that doesn't mean they're not there. That just may mean that the dialogue directly with that person hasn't been opened. Okay, and so firstly, it's important to visualize that. So when you sit down to write a post in your Facebook group, you might see those 1,000 people in there. You need to think, okay, I've got people who are at all different phases along this spectrum, okay? And so what you don't want to do is try and write content every time that appeals to every single one of those people, because it's just not possible, right? You'd have to write like the encyclopedia in order to communicate with all of those people. Rather, what you want to do, and this is why content is an ongoing daily battle, right? Like, you create stuff consistently because, one, you need to communicate with the people at all different phases in your audience. Two, you've constantly got people dropping out of your audience because or dropping out of this spectrum because they pay you, right? And then they move on to something different, which is out of topic for today. You've got people dropping out of your audience because they kind of tune out. You might say something they don't like, which is fine. We repel people. And then you've always got new people joining your audience as well, right? So we need to factor all of this in and keep nudging people along and keep tipping people over the edge. All right. And so that's why content is a constant game, is because you need to be communicating with the people who are in all of these different phases. Okay. Now, the type of content that you create for the people in these different phases varies because they need to see, hear, and experience different things in order to further progress their relationship with you. Okay. This is a really deep topic that I actually did a call on this morning as well, and it went for 2 hours and we still could have gone even deeper. So I'm going to give you kind of the 101 on it here. But you need to communicate with those people about different things, okay? So if we're talking about the people who are super, super early on in your audience experience, right? So these are like your ones, your twos, maybe your threes, right? Let's consider them early, right? Then you've got your fours, fives, sixes. Let's consider them like the middle. And then you've got your 7, 8s, 9s, and 10s. Let's consider them like further progressed. 7s are probably kind of straddling the mid and the further progressed, all right? But let's just try and bucket these into kind of 3 different buckets, all right? The people that are in that first bucket, right, we need to communicate to them that, hey, I understand your problem. Whatever the problem or problems it is that your product solves, that you're ultimately going to try and sell them, the people really early on, we want to get their attention with, hey, I've been there, I've dealt with this problem, I've fixed it myself, I've helped my clients with it, and I know what you're going through. And how we do that is by clearly articulating to them and describing the problem that they're experiencing. That's how we can hook and grab people, is by in detailed specificity describing their pain and problem. Because when they read it, and you'll know your content's on point because something will happen, when they read it, they go, holy shit, it's like Jacob's reading my mind. And I get messages like that every week. And when you get really good at this game, people will reach out to you and go, I read this post and I kid you not, it was like you were reading my mind. Because you become so good at accurately describing their experiences. One, because you've likely been through them yourselves, and 2, because you talk to so many people in your market that you really understand their different pains and problems. So that's that first bucket. Like, as I said, we can go way deeper, but as a general rule, to try and grab those people who are early on, you want to describe to them their pains in detail, right? And I don't mean like, are you frustrated and annoyed? That's so vague, right? Like, get down into the weeds, right? If I was talking to a YouTuber, right, I'd get more specific. Okay, let's say I was trying to communicate to someone who was working full time and was wanting to start and grow their YouTube channel and monetize it, or get it monetized so that they could quit their job, right? If I was trying to communicate with that person, what I'd try and think about is, what's a scenario that's likely happening in their life that is making them feel like they're not quite making the progress that they want to be making towards this goal, right? And I can draw on my own experiences here, particularly back to my time in blogging, and I could say something to the effect of, you know, isn't it frustrating? We can start there with that frustrating, but we don't want to leave it there. People stop there, right? Isn't it frustrating when you get home after a long day at work, right? You've done the commute in, you've spent the whole day in the office, you've done the commute back, right? You do dinner with the family, you might put the kids to bed, it's 9, 10 o'clock at night, and you know you've got 3-4 hours ahead of you planning videos, filming videos, editing videos, doing thumbnails, doing keyword research, all these kind of things, right? And you just have that hope inside you that that next video is going to be the one that pops. It might be your 20th video, your 30th video, your 40th video, your 50th video. But you hold out hope that that next one is the one that pops, right? And you finally, it's 1 a.m., you've been up since 5, you get everything done, you upload it, and you go to bed. The next morning you wake up, you know, you wipe your eyes off, you grab your phone, you go into YouTube Studio, and it's got like 10 views. That's a gut-wrenching feeling. So when you can describe to people the experiences that they're going through, and that's just one example that I pulled off the cuff, right? And then you present them solutions and options to solve that problem. That's how we get those first people's attention, by accurately and specifically describing their pains and problems. Okay. Once they start to move into this middle bucket and we've actually got their attention and they're going, hey, Jacob might be someone that I'm going to listen to, right? Because he was able to really accurately describe my problem. I'm not sold on him yet. I'm not sold on buying his course or any of that stuff yet, but he's got my attention because of how accurately he was able to describe something that I've gone through. So clearly he understands it, right? Because otherwise he wouldn't be able to describe it that accurately, right? And this is where the power of words are just unbelievable. The people in that middle phase, right? What we really want to start educating them on, now that we've got their attention, is our plan to help them in two ways. Our plan to help them emerge from this current painful situation that they're in, and our plan to take them to where they ultimately want to go, right? And this is universal to any market. Okay, we want to talk to them about our plan in order to achieve that and the particulars of our plan, right? What are we going to do first, second, and third? How is this plan different? What's in this plan that's not in their current plan? What's not in their current plan that's in this plan? I think that was the same thing. I just said it a different way, right? But you get the point. Like, what's the distinction between your plan of attack? And plan of attack isn't, you get these 85 modules. Plan of attack is we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this, then we're going to do this. Right? You've been uploading 5 times a week on YouTube. We're going to cut that down to 2 videos a week. And instead of focusing on keywords, we're going to focus on click-through rates. Like, what's your different plan for them? You need to sell them on that. Okay, before the product. I've spoken about this in a few videos, not specifically in this context, but before the product. The reason that becomes before the product is because the products are relevant until they're sold on your methodology for solving the problem that you grabbed them with initially. Okay, so there's a lot of content we can do in this middle phase, but the big one is what is your plan of attack to help them solve the problem that you grabbed them with in that early phase. All right. And then that last bucket of people, your 7s, kind of, your 8s, 9s, and then your 10s are like ready to go. These are the people that you've hooked them in some way, usually through, describing their situation. They have bought into your approach, or they like the idea of what you are telling them, the plan that you are selling them. At this point, they're probably pretty sold on you as a person. Otherwise, they wouldn't still be paying attention. And when I say you as a person, I mean your personality. I mean your views of the world. I mean, how you live, the values that you embrace, all those kind of things. That's going to be communicated through your content, right? So they're probably sold on this at this point. The last thing is like, what are their objections? Okay, and there's two buckets of content that I want you focusing on for the folks in that last phase, all right? And remember, we're mixing and mashing this all the time, all right? There's not like we show up Monday, we do this one, we show up Tuesday. I mean, you could, but typically it all gets mixed around, and we're creating content to address all the people on those different levels of the spectrum, okay? And so that last bucket of people, we need to overcome their objections, and we need to give them a reason to act now, okay? So the objections are like, how much time is this going to take me? What's the investment, right? What are the risks? What if I fail? I've tried this before, all this kind of stuff, right? And we need to address those objections in our content, okay? Some of this stuff can also happen in conversations one-to-one, but we're specifically talking about content here, okay? And then how do we get them to move now, all right? Getting people to move now, scarcity, urgency, that stuff works. It's tried and tested. But beyond that, right? Showing them the cost of staying in the same place, showing them the reality of if they don't change anything, is a great way to move people. And so those people that are in that last bucket that I spoke about, we want to tip them over the edge and get them to buy, all right? So hopefully that set off some light bulbs for you. Let me just quickly recap. Overall, you got an audience of people, 1,000 people, 10,000 people. You need to think about them on a range of 1 to 10. Okay, the folks in that like 1 to 3 range are really early on, and to communicate to them, you want to talk about their pains, their problems, the symptoms of their problems, because you want them to feel like you really understand what they're going through. The folks that have moved into that middle range, because of what you've done in the first part, you want to be talking to them about your plan of attack to help them, okay? Your plan of attack to help them overcome their current pains, get to their goals, and you want to tell them about why your plan's different, all the benefits of your plan, right? Then those folks that have come through all of that and they know you quite well at this point and they align with your views and values and all that kind of shit, that last bucket of people, you want to be communicating with them to overcome their objections and to give them an incentive to act now, okay? If you at the very least, right, like I said, we could go way deeper on this, but if you at the very least think about those things when you're creating your content, I promise you are going to be so far ahead of like 99% of content creators out there, because they are not thinking about this stuff, and they're definitely not thinking about things in that way. All right. And then keep this in mind too. When you start to communicate with people one-to-one, be it a sales call or be it a messenger conversation, the further they are along that spectrum, the easier that sales conversation is going to be. Okay. If someone knows that you understand their problem, they're sold on the plan, they're sold on you, they know the investment, they like your style, you've handled their 3 objections and you've given them a reason to act today, that sale is going to happen like that, right? Conversely, the person that's fresh into your world, has no idea how you help people, isn't even really clear on the fact that you actually understand their pains and problems. If you try and have a one-to-one conversation with that person, I'm not saying you can't do it, but you've got a long road to take them along, okay? So just keep that in mind as you're juggling content and conversations. They interact with each other, okay? And then the offer plays a part in the end as well, but I don't want to go into that in this video. All right, so that's the rule of 1 to 10 with your audiences. That's how to communicate, or that's how to start communicating with the people in the different buckets, and that's how you move them along and tip people over the edge. Okay, hope you got something out of that one. Appreciate you watching this entire video. Check out that first link in the description if you want to see that offer example that did 45K in 11 days, and I will talk to you all very, very shortly. Cheers.